welcome to the NewsX Sunday Guardian Roundtable. Well, the right to privacy debate has been triggered off by the government's recent decision to link Aadhaar to our income tax payments. Add to this another minister demanding that the portions of food that we ordered should be exactly what we can eat and no more. And of course, there is also the growing sense of vigilantism in the state. All this has added to a feeling that the Big Brother is monitoring all our movements. So are we being paranoid, or is there a genuine feeling of being insecure? Is the Big Brother really monitoring us, as we all are fearing? Joining me on the roundtable is Manish Tiwari from the Congress, Rajeev Chandrasekhar from the NDA, Dr. Subramaniam Swamy from the BJP, and Dinesh Trivedi from the TMC. Dr. Swamy, I'll begin with you. Are we being paranoid, or is there a genuine overstepping of the government into our private lives?
Well, I mean, paranoid is the wrong word.
What is the right word?
The right word is that we are getting agitated.
Okay.
This phone is now a microphone. It's a video. I can be tracked, even though I shut the thing off. The technology is moving so fast that you can be followed, you can be heard, you can dining room conversation can be. So there is a lot of agitation on that. Second is that the Supreme Court has not a constitutional bench, but the three-judge bench has held that privacy is a fundamental right. It follows from Article 21. Now, we have got a trigger-happy Attorney General who wanted this to go to the constitutional bench. But till that time, it continues to be a fundamental right, contrary to what the law minister yesterday, in his very, very, very timely
speech on Aadhaar.
He moved a short duration discussion in which the whole House participated, and he raised very fundamental issues. In fact, he should have been asked to start this discussion because he is the expert here. The fact is that we are not so much concerned with our privacy because human minds can work out ways to keep secrets. Okay, that is a problem, but the real problem is that today the control of one country over another country depends on the information you have about that country. And we have today put into our reform package those things which will enormously assist, particularly the United States, whose technology and expertise we are depending on, to access what our companies are doing, to access what the biometrics of each Indian citizen is, and from there they will draw behavioral conclusions. They will do gaming in their laboratories. So that is the most dangerous part of the lack of privacy today, that we are introducing into our legal system, permitting in effect the snooping of United States or Russia. And Russia, you know that they nearly hacked into their elections in the United States. So this technology is going so fast, we are not keeping up with the safeguards, and so our national security is in great danger due to a lack of privacy.
Rajiv, I'll come to you. I remember when you raised that issue, Ravi Shankar Prasad also has reacted. He says that he's assured the House that the bill is that our data security is safe, that the measures are already inbuilt into the bill. Are you reassured by his statements?
No, not at all. I think, and I said it in my speech as well in Parliament, that I think if he believes that there is adequate safeguards for individual rights to privacy, he is in the minority. And I said this squarely in Parliament to him. He has been maintaining that the IT Act and the Aadhaar Act provide for enough protection to individual citizens vis-a-vis privacy, and he's completely wrong. I mean, if he was so right, why would so many thousands and lakhs of people be so agitated, as Dr. Swamy said? The real fundamental problem is, we remember how the leader of opposition then, Mr. Arun Jaitley, had his call detail records, sold off. We know how there was a time when people were being tapped by low-level officers of the police. We are now transiting from that world to a world where there's massive onlining of people's information, behavioral patterns coming online. And there are these nameless, faceless, unaccountable entities that have all this data and information with faceless bureaucrats that are managing it. So therefore, in that context, you, me, everybody should have some right that that data and information is not misused against me, against him, against anybody. And those rights, those consumer rights have to be enshrined in some very solid way in law, in constitutional provisions or whatever. But I am so disappointed that this minister, despite the fact that Arun Jaitley on the floor of the House has accepted that privacy is a fundamental right during the Aadhaar bill debate. He said, I accept, I don't have to wait for the Supreme Court, I accept that privacy is a fundamental right. But this minister will keep saying, no, there is enough provision in the Aadhaar Act, there is enough provision in the IT Act. And if that is the case, then why are people going to court? So I really think the government should step forward. We are a leading democracy. We can take the global lead on this and not hide behind some bureaucratic nonsense saying, some law somewhere provides for it. We have to create an ecosystem of protection for the individual and the citizen who are the biggest stakeholders of Digital India.
Did you ever plan this platform for Aadhaar when you conceived it?
Well, let me give you three vignettes, Priya, starting from what Dr. Swami said about technology. When we were doing the digitization of the broadcasting industry, there is a gentleman who came to me and who said that if you install this chip into the digital box, it can turn every television set in every household into a camera.
That's right.
And so therefore you will actually be able to monitor real time what is happening in every household. So I booted him out of my office and possibly booted him out of the country also. So therefore this is the Orwellian reality that we live in. Number two, I entirely agree with Rajeev. There is even a difficulty with linking of databases. Information of citizens is held in a fiduciary capacity by the state. There is nothing in the Aadhaar law which allows the sharing of that data which is held in a fiduciary capacity. There is nothing in the Income Tax Act which allows the sharing of the income tax returns of the assessees. So therefore, when NatGrid was conceptualized, one of the greatest difficulties with NatGrid was that you would have ended up creating an Orwellian state, and whosoever would have been in charge of that project would have become the intelligence czar of 1.24 billion people. So therefore, if the government is saying that there are enough safeguards, I think they are living in a delusional world, or they are living in some kind of a fool's paradise, or they deliberately want to create such an institution. And mind you, if you do end up creating this institution, you see, democracy is cyclic. So therefore, what may benefit you at this point in time can actually come back to bite you later.
As you learned with the right to information.
Well, see, again with the right to information, I think the right to information eventually has held the field over such a long period of time because the pluses outweigh the negatives. So therefore, what was the greatest difficulty with right to information? Bureaucrats used to say that the doctrine of candor, has gone out of administration. I think it has made administration far more transparent.
Priya, the fact of life is this. Manish talked about that chip on television. For all you know, that chip has already come on this telephone and we are not aware of television. So we do not know.
It's there.
The fact is, we have to accept, whether we like it or not, the world has changed. Technology has overtaken all of us. Dr. Swami mentioned about internal security. One is your right as an individual and the country's information. We have the greatest of brain. Rajeev has been in that field, he knows it better. But are we ready to use? China is having their own Google and everything. Today, if the superpowers want to stop our information channel, they could. ISRO, I'm coming back to this, ISRO is amazingly strong and successful. But now we need to get our kids out of Stanford or MITs and all and bring them here. They can do it. And we have got to launch our own satellites, small ones, and have our own ecosystem where we can control our own information. Nobody can switch off our plug. And that's where I agree with Dr. Swami, that we need to do that, but we are not doing it.
Dr. Swami, Manish also had listed 3 options. Why is the government doing it? And the last one really scared us. Is this deliberate, that they really want to create this monitoring database?
See, he's always been weak in history.
Manish, he's going to really come back now.
He's good in law. Though.
Chalo, you're going to
Dr. Swami called me a failed lawyer also, so therefore I'm used to his...
Not after television discussion. In private, I've never called you.
We've argued on the same side to get BCCI liberated.
That's true.
So there is a meeting ground.
Yeah.
Let's see today's discussion.
He's welcome in our party anytime he wants.
Oh, wow.
I'm giving open invitation. I'll campaign for him.
We'll campaign for him. Done. Manish?
Every time he says that, he ensures that I go 2 notches down in my own party.
Maybe that's probably his objective.
See, the thing is, one of the most dangerous developments of the last 3 years is the ability for Americans and the CIA in particular, because you have hired somebody who was blacklisted by the CIA but still works for the CIA on an informal basis, to assist us in the technical side of the most gigantic commercial data operation, which is the GST. The GST has embedded in it something which is outside the concern of Parliament, which is the cyber brain of the GST. GST is a system of laws. But to make those laws work, you need an enormous database. And for that, you need a cyber giant. And that cyber giant is called GSTN, Goods and Services Tax Network. Yes, nobody has heard of it. When I mentioned in Parliament, nobody knew. And I won't even name people in high positions in our government who didn't know. Till I brought it, they couldn't believe it.
That's the back end in Bangalore.
No,
It's not a backend. It's the one that connects the whole.
It's Infosys which is being given
and the private
subcontract.
sector is doing it.
Who put that in place? His government. And his government has some clones in our government. And they are
And no conversation is complete without that. No.
and they're continuing it. They're putting up a terrific fight. He knows the only time I've got up and spoken against my party government's decision is on this issue. I spoke in Parliament. And I was surprised across the aisle. All MPs agreed with me, but no one wanted to speak.
All of us are saying one point, that as we transit to a model where there is more and more technology and more information that is kept online in these big databases, the risk of that information being misused exponentially increases. It is just a fact of life. If you remember when Snowden revelations happened, when the UPA government was there, in that there were 1,000 Indian telephone numbers that were under surveillance by the NSA of the US. I wrote 3 letters to the then Prime Minister saying we must find out from the US who those 1,000 people were and ask for an apology. Because the Germans did that, the Brazilians did that, but we never got any information from the Americans who those 1,000 numbers are. So therefore, the risk of misuse of this information and data is significant, and therefore, the desire to make sure that there is enough protection, there is enough safeguards. Whether it is GST network, and I asked a question in Parliament yesterday about what are the protection for GST network, and there was a classic bureaucratic answer that came. But I believe the issue is about reciprocal rights for individuals and accountability within institutions of government on the issue of data security and privacy. Unless we establish that principle, we will keep going round and round in circles, and there will be tragedies that we will keep, encountering, deliberate or accidental.
By the way, may I just add one short point? We have a bill pending which they never bring up called Data Protection Authority.
Yes, I know that. The privacy bill, yes.
Yeah.
They've been talking about it, but also Manish, Ravi Shankar Prasad, again to quote him, he's been saying that this has actually made the delivery of subsidies more efficient. He's saying we've saved 49,000 crore on the subsidies.
Well, with great respect to the law minister, he ends up usually confusing apples and oranges. This is not about delivery of services. This is about protection of privacy. This is about fundamental rights. This is what flows from Article 21. And you see, you are dealing with metadata analytics. Today, with the kind of information fingerprinting which is there online, people with a reasonable degree of accuracy, looking at that information, can even predict the way that you are going to vote. So therefore, under those circumstances, as Rajeev was rightly pointing out, we've moved to a new paradigm. A paradigm which is enormous and humongous in its context. So therefore, that is why you require an equal degree of legal intervention, parliamentary intervention, in order to see that the citizen gets protected from technology, which in the hands of the state can be a hugely corrosive power. That's the issue at the end of the day.
And also, if this Privacy Act law does come into, how much will it be enforced? Because we are very weak in enforcing our laws.
I'm a very practical person. No matter what you want to say, no matter you want to say that there is a lot of terror and a lot of people are in corruption and we want to follow that, under a lot of reasons and excuses, this is going to happen. It's already happening. I always, when I talk on the phone, I take it for granted that my phone is tapped. And so you should talk and you should behave in such a way that you're always in public glare. And I personally don't care about it. Because if you are in public life,
but
carry
Trivedi,
on.
may I,
you know, I'm just being practical.
May I interrupt you for a moment?
There would be laws and laws. But the facts are very different. So behave in such a way as if, you know, everybody's watching you. You're having a shower. You're having a shower also, with the raincoat or without.
Back to that raincoat comment.
But Mr. Trivedi is absolutely correct. And this is the most tragic thing which can ever happen, that every public person who's in the public sphere, you know, feels that his phone is tapped.
Correct.
So therefore, you know, you have a whole country, and this is not specific to this government. This is something which has been going on for a while now, and so therefore to live under the specter of paranoia that even legitimate conversations between husbands and wives, between family members, are being recorded by some authority for some godforsaken reason, I think is the single biggest assault on civil liberties, and this needs to stop.
And Priya, should I tell you something? I have stopped making casual conversation, even joking around on the phone. If the other guy jokes, I just tell him to shut up. Because, I mean, this is the way, and I totally agree with him. That's the sad part of society, that the humor in society is gone.
Okay, I'm going to come back to what Rajeev has to say, but first a quick break. You know, are we living in a reality world where the cameras are always on? So stay with us.
This space.
Welcome back to the NewsX Sunday Guardian Roundtable. We are here discussing the right to privacy versus the right to governance. Rajeev, you wanted to comment on this?
No, I wanted to say that I was just taking what Dinesh said. If you remember a few years ago, we had the same problem with Section 66A of the IT Act. People were afraid to say what they ought to say on Facebook because they were getting arrested. And that was the IT Act that the UPA government passed. And it took the court,
That was the wrong act.
the Supreme Court, to strike down that act. Yeah. So therefore, I believe this has to be solved legislatively. It has to be solved through laws. There is no reason why in the world's biggest democracy, people should be afraid of speaking to each other on the phone.
I agree.
I mean, I think a lot of this is induced and implied and paranoia created through hearsay. But whatever it be, the best way to give comfort to a citizen and a consumer is that you have digital rights. You have rights to your information that has been given voluntarily by you to a state agency or a private agency. And if that is misused, you have a legal right to seek, justice. If you don't create that law and all you have is Mr. Ravi Shankar Prasad, with great respect to him, articulating till he goes blue in the face or I go blue in the face that there is enough protection, that is wrong. I think the government must do the right thing and enter this debate and say, what is the problem? Let us threadbare analyze this. How do we create a set of rights that will make people comfortable as living as digital Indians in a digital democracy?
And also, there's another part to this debate. You know, the vigilantism, the fact that one minister will tell you can only order as much food as you can eat and don't order more. So, you know, this whole monitoring that's going on in every sphere.
This invasion of privacy.
Invasion of privacy.
Well, first of all, let me say that all fundamental rights are subject to reasonable restrictions.
And who?
Including the right to eat.
Even the right to eat.
And including the right for me to decide what is reasonable? No.
No, you can't decide. The courts decide. I can't decide. Government can't decide. The courts decide. You can't say that I love cocaine.
No.
That's illegal.
Yeah, that's illegal. Yeah. So there is.
Therefore, there is resistance.
But eating more food is not illegal.
No, no.
Or
See,
wasting food. Sorry, that's the argument. Not eating more food.
wasting food and all. That a ministerial comment should not take.
No, she's talking about that. She's only talking about that.
Yeah, definitely, see, because this is lack of education. Most of us don't know what the Constitution is. And they have not read that. I mean, I was surprised that JNU students who once came to argue with me didn't know that fundamental rights are subject to reasonable restrictions.
But what about your own cabinet? Forget the JNU students.
So therefore, this is from there, they become cabinet ministers. Nirmala Sitharaman is from the JNU. So we have JNU products also in cabinet and on the Council of Ministers. The issue is that what he said, I would like to expand it and take it forward. You must have that knowledge that these are my rights and these are protected. And this is where I can sue the government or I can prosecute somebody. Once you know that, if a minister makes that thing, you challenge him. For instance, I have not yet taken an Aadhaar card. I'm waiting for somebody to tell me.
I have not taken either.
Two people who don't have Aadhaar
I have not
cards.
taken Aadhaar card.
I'm waiting for somebody to say you can't.
But you can't travel now. They said
No,
that
I would like to say somebody tell me in writing that I can't travel. I will not only.
the banks will not honor your.
And what about your income
they
tax?
must. They must.
So,
they must.
Swami, let me know when you take your Aadhaar card. I'll follow you.
I will not
Look,
take
the
it.
law is Section 7 of the Aadhaar Act says very clearly that it is not mandatory.
The Supreme Court has reaffirmed that.
So I think if there are ministries or departments that are trying to make it mandatory, this is what Dr. Swami is saying, you can easily challenge them. It is very clear.
That's right.
And it is because of those challenges in Parliament today that the government has recognized that it cannot be made mandatory.
But Rajeev, the fundamental question is that if the law says it is not mandatory, why are government departments trying to make it mandatory?
Challenge it.
But Dr. Swami, that's fine. It can be challenged. You know, all of us challenge a lot of things in courts. But the fact is that something which goes against the mandate of the law, why is the government even going down that road? That's the fundamental question.
I'll explain. The UIDAI is an institution that has very little oversight. None of us know what they are doing. They have issued Regulation 12. Actually has a regulation that seems to, on the first reading, contradict Section 7 of the Act. So because we are not scrutinizing what UIDA's regulations are, which they are issuing without any oversight, they are doing things, the government departments take refuge in that, and they...
No,
issue
Rajeev,
notifications.
By the way,
let me finish. HRD ministry issues a notification. I ask a question in Parliament of the HRD minister, and his response is contradicting his own notification. So you can understand the confusion that is being created by the lack of oversight on UIDAI.
But there is
filing of income tax, they say that now you have to have Aadhaar,
that's right.
not a PAN card.
No, that's right. And you see, there is another difficulty. The other difficulty is this, creeping control which the government wants to institutionalize. For example, for example, what Dr. Swami referred to, I mean, is it for the government to decide as to how much food will be served in a restaurant, in a plate? Has somebody looked at the Constitution? Does the central government even have the powers in the union list? It does not. It is the state governments which, under the entry of innkeepers and restaurants, etc., which has the power. So therefore, you have statements coming out of ministers which are completely outlandish. And there I agree with Dr. Swami. It seems half the ministers have not even read the Constitution before they make these statements.
And you get that feeling of a nanny state.
No, I think, look, there will be a lot of this sanctimonious stuff coming out from people in power. You should not eat so much. You must not
that's all right.
That's fine.
That's all right.
But I think we have the right. The moment that particular minister tries to enact a rule or a law, you go to court and get it struck down. This has happened before. It happened with Section 66A. If somebody oversteps his limits of what is government role or not, we have a constitution, we have a statute book that we can use to challenge them. That is the right that we have. But where we don't have a right is when it comes to privacy and all of this data that is in the custody of the government, we still don't have well-developed rights that we can use to challenge misuse.
So first get the framework in place and then I think...
Yeah, data protection authorities would be sufficient. But they are not bringing it.
So what will make you get your Aadhaar card?
So we will request
Me?
Dr. Swami to...
I don't think we need an Aadhaar card.
No, but if they have the data protection laws...
What data protection? There's no data protection. It's not possible.
But what Dr.
I
Swami
wanna-
can do is, because he has expertise in it over the years, is that if the government doesn't bring the Data Protection Act, he can always take it to the Supreme Court. And like in the Vishakha case, the Supreme Court laid down guidelines for sexual harassment, which has held the field.
just waiting.
They can lay down guidelines for data
You
protection.
please persuade somebody to deny me my air ticket or something.
Good.
And I'll be there.
So when is your next trip abroad? We're going to wait.
When are you filing your income tax?
Sorry, that's a better question.
So that's what I have to ask my wife. She's the one who does it. But so far I haven't had any problem.
Just one last one. I just want to say Aadhaar is a good thing to have because it's a good platform to direct subsidies and prevent leakage. But Aadhaar has to be accompanied by reciprocal rights of privacy and data protection. It's not an all or nothing zero-sum game. We need Aadhaar to better deliver subsidies, but we also need to protect against misuse of Aadhaar and...
Rajeev, that brings
How
me to
will I
another
know?
point. How has government allowed private companies to access biometric databases?
Correct.
That is
Correct.
And make
absolutely
it on the board
illegal.
of, board of directors.
So-
the majority share of GSTN is
Correct.
with
Private
private,
sector.
parties.
So I think
can't
it's
believe this. And 100% of the expenditure is by the government.
And
CAG is not allowed to probe it.
And
Okay, last one.
adding that to Dr. Swami's, this private companies may have a foreign shareholding.
They do.
So ultimately what we are doing, our entire data, which is the new nuclear weapon, is going somewhere else.
Yes.
So I think while Aadhaar is a good platform, I agree with Rajeev, and when we are talking about digital India, we have to ensure that the control of this digital India is with India, but at the moment, talking about satellites and all, the control is not with India. And this is where I think people like Dr. Swami can educate not only us, to the government as well.
Well, I think I can't say it better than Dinesh Trivedi. So that's it. Thank you for watching this show. We'll see you again same time next week.